Time is now 6 o'clock. At this time, we will call this meeting to order, this being the regular Dawson County Planning Commission meeting of January. If you would like to begin with invocation from Tim Bennett.
Let's bow our heads. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We thank you for your love, mercy, and grace. Lord, we just thank you, Lord, that in a time in this nation when we need healing, God, we know that you're the only one that can provide that. We just pray tonight in this meeting that everything that's said and done will bring glory to your name and for the betterment of Dawson County and its citizens, Father. And we thank you for your goodness and mercy in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ask you guys to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. This time we'll have a roll call. Ms. Harmony? Tim does not have a anything to vote upon.
You can move it over, it's right here. We had to move it to this podium. Would you like that one?
Yeah. I'm just going to yank it off the wall.
Okay, this time we'll have a roll call. Ms. Harmony, when you're ready. Oh, I see that's. There you go.
Yeah, it's better.
Nice, yes.
It's not showing anything.
We're just showing Neil Hornsey is the only one. Let the
Oh,
record show that there's 3 members present. Neil Hornsey, Tim Bennett, and myself, Jason Hamby. Emery Dooley has moved on to be a commissioner, and John Maloney is not here tonight by reason of medical reason. But there are 3 of us, so we do have enough for a quorum tonight. Gentlemen, I assume you've had opportunity to look over the minutes. Is there any amendments to the amendments that need to be made? If not, is there a motion that they be approved as presented by staff?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Move in a second. All in favor? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion is carried 3-0.
I
for
think
the
that
approval
you
of the
have
minutes.
mine.
I believe I have yours
Yeah.
according to this. But,
Because I didn't touch
you're
anything.
hooked up on this one. Anyway. The agenda that's presented by staff, we've discussed earlier about a couple of amendments. I'll leave that up to you if you'd like to amend the agenda.
Motion to amend the agenda, removing item number 4 and adding election of chairman and other positions for the planning commission.
As moved, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Motion is carried 3-0. If you're here tonight to speak either in favor or opposition of any application and you have made contributions of more than $250, then there's a form that you will need to fill out, and Harmony has that here at the desk in front of you. Under new business, we'll begin with application for rezoning, presentation of ZA 20-24, Dawsonville Gun Range Incorporated, to rezone tax map parcel 113-017 from RSRMM to CHB for the purpose of developing a gun range. Is someone here to speak for Dawsonville Gun Range? Seeing no one here to speak for Dawsonville Gun Range, Jameson Kinley, would you like to present?
Yes, sir. Located at so ZA 20-24, the applicant is looking to rezone from RSR MM to CHB in order to develop an indoor gun range. It is 3.43 acres located at 5711 Highway 53 East. So right now it is right adjacent property, I would say, west of the Dawsonville Gun and Pawn currently. Same ownership. The firing range that you have in your packets it has 10 stalls and is approximately 7,000 square feet, adjacent to the existing Dawsonville Gun and Pawn. And it will utilize the same commercial driveway as the pawn shop currently. So you'll only have one entry and exit to accommodate both commercial entities on the property. Currently, CHB is in our comprehensive plan for that area. So that is an appropriate use to rezone this property to according to our future land use map. I'll entertain any questions.
The applicant is aware that this does fall in the Dawsonville 400 corridor guidelines, and it will have to be specified.
We did have a pre-application meeting, and the applicant is aware of the 400 corridor guidelines. He's also aware that we are updating our 400 corridor guidelines, and whatever time he submits his drawings, or if approved, that he would have to fall under any guidelines at that point. Yes.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Is anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, at this time, we'll close it to the board for discussion. Gentlemen, you have before you Dawsonville Gun Range looking to create an indoor, Dawsonville Gun and Pawn looking to create a indoor gun range of 10 stalls. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to recommend approval.
Second.
Moving to second, to recommend approval. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion is carried 3-0. We will recommend approval. And this rezone will be heard before the Board of Commissioners
February 18th.
on February the 18th. Presentation of ZA 20-25 Fall Leaf Residential LLC to rezone tax map parcel 085-016 from RSR to RS3 for the purpose of developing a 140 lot conservation neighborhood. Is someone here to speak for Fall Leaf Residential LLC? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Write your name and address upon the piece of paper that's there on the podium. If you would, for the record, please state your name.
Chairman, my name is Tommy Long, and I am here on behalf of Fall Leaf Residential. This property is a 65-acre tract on the west side of Highway 9, about 2.5 miles north of Dawson Forest. And we had submitted an application a couple of months ago for a standard RS3. And after talking with a number of the neighbors, we felt like they might like conservation plan better where we could save a lot of, in fact, we did save almost all the trees on the site. And we've now, of course, submitted this new application for conservation. This site plan shows 141 acres. That works out to this is 2.16 on the price. Of course, 40% of the site is open space. So saving all the trees, and we feel like that's going to give us some opportunity have some passive recreation. Walking trails, and picnic area, somewhere back in the large family. There's also a 50-foot open space along the frontage along Highway 9, and that's a heavily planted. Right now, there's no trees. I know it's probably familiar with it, like kudzu patch. I guess I need to start over,
We've heard you, some of them. Has anyone not heard? Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, the plan would be, of course, to landscape that heavily, which will give us, we think, a very nice entrance into the subdivision and some screening, for the people across the street. We'll have a homeowners association, and they'll be responsible for the upkeep of all the entrance features and the open space and then the amenities that we have. The Dawson County Land Use Comprehensive Plan points out that there are very few opportunities in the county for residential housing other than single-family homes on large lots. And as I know you're all aware, last December, a year ago in 2019, the county passed a new Rs3 Ordinance, which was designed, we felt like, to enable the development of somewhat smaller lots. And we think this site is very well suited for an RS3 development. We've got water and we've got sewer, and we're on one of your main arteries, and we think these are things that, should certainly be considered in any RS3 application. And the fact of the matter is that there aren't very many sites in the county that are going to lend themselves to RS3. I know most of you know there's not much sewer when you get north of Dawsonville. So without sewer, you couldn't do an RS3. I would like to also point out there are two new developments in this area that are being developed with lots the same size or even smaller than what we're proposing. There's one a mile north, also on the west side of Highway 9, and then a little over 2 miles south on the Etowah Water and Sewer property. There's another development going in with similar, I think those actually may be smaller than even what we're proposing. So we think that these two developments have established a precedent that this type of a development is appropriate in that area. And I know all of you are probably familiar with what's going on with the development costs nowadays. They've just gone through the roof, and our budget so far for this is $55,000 a lot, and that doesn't even include the land. And we just feel like to develop larger lots is going to be even more expensive, and it's going to just make it won't be feasible to develop this property, we don't feel like. I'd like to point out, we submitted, along with our letter of intent, a document that our attorney prepared that addresses some constitutional issues that we think need to be considered and that we think would render a denial of this zoning unconstitutional. And my attorney said I should mention that for the record. But in conclusion, we think this is going to be a nice subdivision that'll provide much needed housing for the county. And we hope you'll forward a favorable recommendation for us. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Is Fall Leaf looking to retain ownership or looking to develop themselves? Or tell me a little bit about Fall Leaf.
I don't know how this is going to be structured. They've done deals different ways over the last few years. They may develop it themselves. They may do it with one of the builders in the area.
Okay, so really, we don't know at this point.
We don't know for sure.
You
how
also
they gonna
mentioned
structure.
precedent being set by a subdivision 1 mile to the north. Would that be the one inside of the city of Dawsonville?
That one is in the
Inside
city.
the city limits, okay. Do you have any house plans, anything that we can visualize?
Well, we submitted a streetscape that would show I mean, I didn't get that in till today. I don't know if y'all got
Okay,
a
no,
chance
I
to
don't
see
see
it.
anything in my packet that shows any streetscapes whatsoever as to what you have visualized.
I mean, that just shows a general architecture. Obviously, the homes, the facades may, the combination of stone and brick and shake, may be different, obviously, than what you're seeing there. And what I would suggest, and what I've seen many municipalities do, is they quite often will put a condition that says the exterior building materials will be brick, stone, hardy plank type siding, shake. And that's the way they typically, I've seen many municipalities.
Certainly, we've seen many
control.
things come up that way before us over the years. I just wondered because I did not see anything in your application that specified as to what your vision is. In addition, you speak of unconstitutional. Have you tried to market this piece of property?
I'm not the broker on this. I'm working with a developer.
Okay. How long has your developer owned this piece of property?
He doesn't own it yet.
Okay, so you're looking to purchase from the owners then?
Right.
Okay,
I
understand.
think the present owners have owned it
Since 2008.
20 years or so, I guess.
All right. Any other questions, the applicant?
Is there so I don't see any amenities or anything proposed? Or?
Well, right now, we just, like I said earlier, we're thinking just some passive amenities like a walking trails and a picnic area, probably in the rear part of the property.
Any questions, Mr. Bennett? No. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper on the podium. Please state your name.
My name is Brenda J. Johnston, Johnston.
If you would, please state your opposition to the application.
Okay, well, I have it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm against the rezoning. My property is slap dab in the middle of that back end. It's like that big U shape. Mine is 545 feet adjacent to that property. It has little or no current trees, shrubs, or whatever. There are more proposed houses against my property line where I'm adjacent than anybody else who's adjacent. My house is closer to the property line with little or no vegetation to obscure the view that I'll be getting. And here's what I put together so I could tell what I was going to see. This is the current view from my upstairs. Okay, subdivision comes in. View with the subdivision. Within 50 feet, well, let's put it this way. I'll never have an option to swim in my pool again in privacy. I'll never have an option to work in my garden again in privacy. I'll never have an option just to go down to my animal pens and take care of my animals in privacy. There'll be 35-foot houses within 100 feet of my property line. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. I sent all you guys a letter a couple months ago, and I sent one to all the commissioners as well. Besides the points in that letter that I would like entered into the record, I want you to know that I moved here when I retired for the sole purpose of living in a rural area so I could do my 35-year-old dream of building a small farm. With this subdivision, I'll have to put windows coverings and door coverings on all my windows and doors. Currently, there's none because I have lots of skylights and lots of sun coming in, and there's nobody out there to see. Sure, I'm gonna have right now from my bedroom, I have a scenic view, and even from downstairs out in the pasture, I have a scenic view of the mountains. That will be blocked. I won't see the mountains anymore. At night, with all the house lights on, the stars will be less visible. Right now at night, I can swim in my pool and see those lights from the stars. In the summer, there's lots of fireflies that fly up through the pasture and katydids, and I love swimming in my pool to that ambiance. Consider the noise pollution of 141 houses. That's probably about 200 dogs. Most people who have dogs have 2. Children, cars, motorcycles, lawnmowers, weed eaters, and fireworks, and the dogs barking constantly. I don't believe that the zoning to RS3 is consistent with the zoning in our area. Most of our houses are built on an acre and a half, 3 to 5 acres or larger. These, where the houses are located, will be a density of 6 houses per acre. That's like putting 18 more houses on my 3-acre property right now. The proposed houses will probably be cookie cutter box type houses that is totally out of sync with the homes in our area. We have distinct houses. I have an odd shaped house. It looks like a torrent house. Neighbors have cabins. Other neighbors have like little country cottages. These are going to be boxy, all the same type houses, or at least what I can determine if it's anything like the ones that are coming up were built in the city of Dawsonville. They're trying to propose that the green area, the conservation area, is for our benefit, but it's not. It's for the benefit of the builder because now he doesn't have to run sewer or electrical or clear as many trees, although he still has to grade because the grading in that lot is such that it's a low area and you're going to have to take a lot of dirt downhill. When he does that, he's going to scare hundreds, snakes, groundhogs, rats over to the adjacent property unless there's some mitigation process that can be done first. The people in the subdivision, 141 houses, a couple hundred people, are going to be using that green space, which is adjacent to some of the property on the end, to walk their dogs, to have a park, to have maybe walking trails, picnic areas, and may even decide they want to put a pool in someday. On my property, I have a little farm. I have chickens, ducks, 2 goats, and a llama. 200 dogs barking at my llama will drive the neighborhood crazy. My llama is genetically predisposed to not like 4-legged creatures with teeth that run and bark at him. He puts out an alert, kind of like a siren going off, and it's very loud. Plus my goats have a seasonal bleating that they do all winter, every couple of weeks. It's very annoying to people. People 100 yards away from my goat are not going to be happy. And my chickens start crowing, my roosters, about 3:30 in the morning, just so you know. I'm afraid that the adults, kids, are going to say, oh boy, a petting zoo. Let's go to her property and see her animals. They're going to want to see them move. They're going to yell at them, raise their hands. They're going to throw things at them. Worst of all, they're probably going to try and feed them. I feed my animals. I feed them what's good and healthy for them. People start throwing things over the fence. It could create my animals to get sick and possibly die, because goats eat about anything. And they eat the wrong stuff, they can get sick real fast. Okay. I'm also afraid that some of the older kids may decide, oh boy, let's go take our BB guns and pellet guns out and see if we can shoot some birds or squirrels or whatever's in that green area. Well, that's near my pens. I don't know if these kids know, but you need to be kind of careful where you're aiming your gun. You could injure an animal like mine, or you could possibly cause some damage to my pens. Sorry. The last thing I just want to say is I'm really hoping that you guys, I didn't move into Dawson County to be in a 141 house subdivision. I moved here to specifically because of the zoning RSR, which was rural sub-rural. And you can see right here, if you approve this, you just put me behind 141 house subdivision. And I don't even have voting rights because I'm not a member of the homeowners association. I can't vote on anything. So I'm hoping that you won't vote to ruin what's left of my retirement. I haven't got that many years left, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Someone else speak in opposition? If you would please come forward, write your name and address on the.
What I wanted to do, gentlemen, rummage through this stuff. There we go. I'm Donald Brown. I live on Apple Ridge 2. My property will abut this development, and I thank you for the time. I'm here to request your denial of this rezoning application and this variance. I'm not arguing against construction of homes in that area in accordance with the county ordinance and the county guidelines, not at all, but against this mesh of homes in a small area. I had asked the representative of Fall Leaf LLC what effect this will have on the water table and the wells of nearby homes, what will happen to the stream, and the effect on the recharge of groundwater. There was no acceptable answer. However, as you can see on this plat, they have identified the live stream on the property. The addition of this number of homes to those subdivisions already on Highway 9 South is an unacceptable increase in traffic in that area. For those that live on or near or use Highway 9, it's a narrow 2-lane roadway with access roads to housing areas and to homes that are on Highway 9. The increase of the number of homes built and pending will exacerbate the number of vehicles and create a backlog and nightmare for anyone using this roadway. Sweetwater Preserve at Perimeter and Highway 9 has 102 homes, but it is designed to empty onto Highway 9 North and onto Perimeter, but that does not keep the traffic from entering 9 South. South of that is the Thunder Ridge subdivision under construction with 217 home sites and will have ingress and egress only to Highway 9. The proposed construction under this variance has 141 home sites, and again, ingress and egress only to Highway 9. At a minimum, Highway 9 South traffic will be increased by 358 vehicles. That is predicated on 1 vehicle per home, but we all know that is no longer the number of most homes. So normally, the case today would be significantly higher. In fact, doubled, depending on the density of vehicles per home. The morning and afternoon traffic is already impacted by the necessary ingress and egress from Dawson County Middle School and the adjoining elementary school. The LLC representative did say that this addition will have water and sewer from a county source, something that was not afforded those homes, that abut this proposed addition. I asked the Planning Commission to deny this variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there anyone else speaking in opposition to the application? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on a piece of paper on the podium. In addition, please state your name.
My name is John Livingstone. I live at 2493 Highway 9 South, which is directly across the street from this proposed subdivision. Again, like the other gentleman said, I don't have a problem with development. 50 or 60 houses on this piece of property would be a nice subdivision. But 144 on 60 acres is too many houses in too small a space. The driveway, one of the two main entrances for this subdivision is directly across the street from my driveway, okay? We're looking at 400 to 600 cars added to Highway 9 coming in and out of there. I drive a dump truck. Sometimes it takes me 15 or 20 minutes to get out on 9 in the morning between the school buses and the cars that we already have. If we add another 400 to 600 cars in this one subdivision, Highway 9 is going to be a standstill. There's no way that 2-lane road can handle it. And then on the south side of the subdivision, you've got a blind hill. And on the north side of the subdivision, you've got a blind hill and a blind corner. So I don't see how we could do this without major improvements to 9, which is going to disrupt the homeowners that are already there. Because my driveway, like I said, empties on 9. So if you do anything to 9, you're probably going to take some of my land to do it, along with 5 or 6 of my neighbors at least. So I implore you, please do not let them build 144 houses on this land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Livingstone. Is anyone else speaking in opposition? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on a piece of paper there on the podium. And please state your name.
India Hawkins. I'm at 2411 Highway 9 South. And I am right in the middle of the curve right there. And it is horrible getting out in the mornings because people just come over that hill and they don't care. And I mean, there's going to be several accidents there, I feel like. Also, all those cookie cutter homes, when I first moved into Dawsonville, I had 8.5 acres. The guy wanted to build 3 homes on my 8.5 acres, and y'all approved not to. So that's like I've got 8.5 acres. That's like putting 18 homes or more on my 8.5 acres. And when I come out every morning, I'm not sure exactly where I'm at right there, but it's just not a good thing. And then when you come over the hill, all you're going to see is homes and, rooftops. And it's just not going to be a pretty thing for Dawsonville either. For me, it's not. If you have to approve something, make it more, less houses and make it prettier. But I'm just worried about the curve and also the green space in the back. I've got an underground spring. Is it going to affect my underground spring? I don't know. And so I've just got a problem with the whole thing, really. I used to be able to see the sunset. I still can see the sunset. I sit out on my porch every night and see this beautiful sunset. And I'm just worried that all those houses coming in, I'm not going to be able to see it anymore. I moved out here to be out in the country, kind of. And I know development is progress, but not with 141 homes. I mean, that's like up there at Perimeter and Highway 9. I've said this before, that it doesn't look, it looks terrible. I mean, you come around the corner and you're just like, oh my God, you know, I mean, we need to build Dawsonville up and not just put these cookie cutter homes. We need more, you know, upscale homes. And so I would please recommend y'all not approving this, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Anyone else speak in opposition? If you would, please come forward, write your name. If you'll write your name and address on the piece of paper that's there.
I'm Joanne Sheridan. And like I said, I'm new to this and still learning. But I've been reading a lot of this stuff and I think there's some things that need to be thought about. You planned the future land use and now people are asking you to change that. Stick with what you planned. In some of these variance requests, it lists the Board of Education and the population at each school. But I'd like you to look at everything that's been approved to be built or is in the process of being built or has recently been completed. And how many students do you think that's going to bring to each school? It doesn't matter what their last population number was. It's where are we when those subdivisions, apartments, townhouses are completed? Maybe they don't have, well, I'm not even going to say that. Most of them will have school-age children. And, oh, the zoning thing, the Rs3,
Yes, ma'am.
that's new?
It is.
Because I live in that partially. I mean, it's partially RA, partially vacation cottage, partially. I thought it meant 3 homes per acre.
Essentially, yes.
It doesn't.
Essentially, yes.
Well, essentially. That's going to be 41 acres with 141 houses on it, not 65 acres. Because the
Correct.
rest of it's trees and probably land you can't walk on. And are they going to put in paths or are people going to just create
He
dirt?
said he didn't know at this
Right,
time.
right. Well, anyway, I gave you some things I'd like you to think about with
Thank you, ma'am.
schools and last time it was traffic, so thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Is there anyone else speaking in opposition to the application? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper that's there on the podium. For the record, if you would, please state your name, sir.
I'm Joey Bearden. I live across 9 from this subdivision that's proposed, and it does not fit our area at all. Up and down the road on both sides of Highway 9, people live on acres of acres of land. This, they say, well, they've put green space. Yes, they have, but they have still compressed the same amount of homes, 141 on even smaller section of land. It will be detrimental to the Highway 9, like has already been pointed out. I feel like it'll be detrimental to our schools with added population. I feel like it'll be detrimental to the water and sewage and overall quality of life. It just does not fit our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bearden. Anyone else speaking in opposition? If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper on the podium. Additionally, please state your name.
Larry Grant. And just like Joey, I've lived here all my life. I've owned this home for 40 years across from the subdivision that's going in. My main concern is the traffic on 9. You see what 53's got. 53 is a complete mess. 9 is almost in a complete mess. You cannot get out of a morning. It's bad. Just as I was coming up here this evening, it took me forever to get out on the road to come up here. So my main concern is with the traffic. I'm not one who goes against anybody wanting to build something on their land, but this is way too many houses to be putting on that little spot of land. Too many people. My main concern is the road. If they're going to make 9 a 4-lane, then they need to make 9 a 4-lane.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Anyone else speak in opposition to the application? If you would, please come forward. Write your name and address on the piece of paper on the podium. Additionally, please state your name.
My name is Renee Livingstone. I live at 2493 Highway 9 South. Our house is approximately across from the lower entrance in the mosquito breeding ground of the water retention pond, which I really don't want across from my mailbox, but that's a whole nother one. When I found out about this, I'm like, no, this is not what I want across the street from my house. And the first thing my husband said was, this sure don't mate with what's in the neighborhood. Surrounding this piece of property, there are 2 1-acre lots. There are 2 1.5-acre lots. There's 1 2-acre or more, 2 2-acre more, then it goes to 3, then 4, then 7, then 8, then 9 or more acreage and single lots around this. 3 houses to an acre do not fit in this area. We have estate-sized lots, basically, on most of this surrounding area. This does not fall into what's in this area. 141 houses are literally, like they've said, cookie cutter right on top of each other. You can reach out and smack your neighbor good morning because they're sitting on top of each other. That's not what we bought property up here. We've been up here 25 years. We've seen deer, we've seen rattlesnakes, we've seen everything on this piece of property. But if they want this kind of density, fight it out at 400, where you have the infrastructure to support it. You have 400 to get people back and forth to work. If you've driven down 9 and gone through the construction site that is at the schools, you know, that can take forever in the morning, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. 141 houses would just make that even worse. So then I got to looking, and I got really good at using the county's webpage on itself. And you can find out who owns property. You can find out how much property they own. You can find out how long they've owned it. From this piece of property on Highway 9 out to 400 at the outlet mall, there are currently over 1,000 houses in the process of either being built or have just been completed. We have the cottages next to the movie theater that are going in as rental cottages. That's 193 units. We have behind Home Depot, we have 145 attached homes. The Woods at Dawson, that's the one being graded right across from where the daycare center is. That's 105 houses and 117 townhouses going in on that piece of property. Maisie Park has 50 that have just been finished and sold. The cottages at Riley Place have 114 houses, units going in, as they call it. The Oaks at Dawson has 153. Black's Mill Preserve has just finished 287 units. Thunder Ridge has 217. Creekstone just finished out the rest of their section with 50 new houses in there. Sweetwater Preserve has over 102. Oakdale, the new ones in the city limits, is 37 right next to the library. This is 1,017 homes within a year period, forward and backward, that have been entered. The majority of these are in the $250,000 range. You're getting a cookie cutter 2,000 square foot house for that $250,000. If you look at the number of homes, I'm looking at 117. And I Googled today, what is the national average of children in school per home? And it said the average is 1. So that's 117 homes. You're adding 1,017 homes. That's over 1,000 kids in the Dawson County school system. Well, currently there's just over 3,700 in the entire system. So this is basically, you're adding 25% more already. That's even before this subdivision that's another 141 kids. If you've been to some of the schools lately, they don't have room for this. And I'm not even getting into water, traffic, utilities. Is Dawson County ready for this? I understand the gentleman that owns the property wants to sell the property, make some money. Well, that's fine. And he has a right to. If he wants to build $400,000 houses, make them on bigger lots, make them fit the surrounding area. We would love that. That's not a problem. But these cookie cutter houses across the street are just way too many people and way too small a place. When we moved up here, this was a small town. My husband laughed at me because we started getting the newspaper 2 years before we moved here, just to be able to find out who was who, where was everything at. We moved here, we raised our kids here. I want future kids to have what ours did. This is a wonderful community. And we need to look at the future plans for this community. Growth is wonderful, but it's got to be able to be supported. We don't have the infrastructure to support all this. So we need to stick to the land use that's already been planned. Keep the density out at 400 where they have infrastructure for this, and leave the rest of the wooded community like the reason most of us came up here in the first place. I beg and plead of you, don't put this in.
Thank you, Ms. Livingstone.
Thank you.
Anyone else speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, at this time we'll close the board for discussion. Gentlemen, do you have any discussion?
It seems to me that when RS3 was, when we put that in, it was to, give people an option to not do 6 units per acre, the multifamily. And now it seems like everybody's trying to use it to put in more instead of less. And I think we, intended it to be along 400. I think this is way too dense for this area. I mean, we just recommended denial last month on something, I believe, less dense, closer to 400.
It was on Dawson Forest,
Yeah.
Closer to 9, not close to 400, but
Closer to
certainly
400
this-
than this. Yeah.
this is a whole lot further out than anything, anyway, it isn't anticipated as far as our RS3 going from 400. But nonetheless, we are having to look at the health, safety, and welfare of Dawson County citizens as a whole. So. Any other discussion?
I think traffic is probably going to be an issue, like I said, it's been stated several times. And I don't think there's been any kind of traffic study completed or anything on this.
Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend denial.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of recommending denial, raise your hand. Motion is denied, or the motion is carried to recommend denial. This rezone will be heard February the 18th by the Board of Commissioners. If you have an opinion either in favor or in opposition to this application, you will also need to be present at February 18th at the Board of Commissioners meeting. Number 3, presentation of ZA 20-26, Jim King, OBO, Jerry and Jackie Townley, to rezone 2.731 acres of tax map parcel 115-044 from RA to RSR for the purpose of subdividing the parcel to RSR guidelines. Someone here to speak for Mr. King. If you would, please come forward, write your name and address on the piece of paper there on the podium. Additionally, for the record, please state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim King, 416 Overlook Circle, Dawsonville, Georgia. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'm here tonight representing the Townley family. They simply want to subdivide a piece of property that they've had in the family for years, their residence, in order to create a parcel that's a little less than 3 acres for his son to live on, his son and his family to live on. And the property is currently zoned residential agricultural, which requires a minimum of a 5-acre lot. So we're here tonight requesting it be rezoned to RSR to allow this to allow him to subdivide it into smaller than a 5-acre lot. Future land use plan designates this property as sub-rural residential, which is conducive to this.
Additionally, there will be no new home construction on this, I understand.
It is an existing home. Yes,
So
sir.
the
They're
home
just-
is existing and we're not looking to rebuild
That is correct.
anything at this time.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions to the applicant? Thank you, Mr. King.
Mhm.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, at this time, we'll close the board for discussion. Gentlemen, do you have any discussion on subdividing a piece of property? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to recommend approval?
Second.
Moving to second to recommend approval. All in favor of approval, raise your hand. Motion is carried 3-0. We are recommending approval to the Board of Commissioners. Additionally, this will be heard February the 18th by the Board of Commissioners. If you have an opinion either way, either in opposition or in favor, you will need to be heard February the 18th at the Board of Commissioners. Public hearings, K, presentation of land use resolution update of residential plan community languages. Mr. Kinley.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I was filling out some paperwork. So what we are looking to do, or what the proposed land use change is to remove the portions in RPC that speak to the RPC zoning district and the private roads being privately maintained as opposed to in allowing them to be publicly maintained. That is Article 3, Section 315, RPC Residential Plan Community, deleting subsections 315 K1, 2, and 3. And I'm just going to read those real quick. K1 is all roads within RPC zoning district shall be private roads and shall be maintained by a property owners association formed by the developer, except those roads would serve to connect the development to other public roads. Number 2, all roads within an RPC development district shall be designated as private on all plats, maps, deeds, and road signs of the development. And number 3, all private roads with the development shall be built to public standards. And I believe at this time, it's important to know the history of how we got to this point. So RPC was originally RPCD, which is Residential Plan Community Development, in 1986 when we implemented zoning in Dawson County. This particular language wasn't added in until 1998. That was about the time when we started discussing Big Canoe and Chestatee. So we wanted to make sure that in RPC developments that, you know, they had a homeowners association. RPC is the only classification in which we require a homeowners association. We wanted to make sure that they maintain their own roads. That was a part of that design. In 1998, we didn't have subdivision regulations. So all of our development regulations resided in our land use resolution. So in 2009, we created subdivision regulations, and we took out a lot of different things. This just so happened just to remain in our land use resolution because of the specific nature of the residential plan community. And it's caused a few issues and has some somewhat contradictory language with our subdivision regulations. So the option was to, of the BOC was considering was just to remove that language altogether. I would ask that the board discuss this and make a recommendation.
Any discussion under removing, deleting K1, 2, and 3 in the RPC.
So this would make they would all be public roads then?
Any
Not
road,
necessarily.
I'm sorry, I apologize, Chairman.
Go ahead. It'll be fine.
Any road still has to come back before the Board of Commissioners and it has to be accepted into the county maintenance program. So by deleting this language does not necessarily mean that all these roads have to be, are going to be publicly maintained roads. This language just means that these subdivisions in RPC can apply for that, their roads to be turned over to be publicly maintained. That decision still relies solely with the Board of Commissioners. As you recall, I believe it was in November, you had a variance to this exact language. In that case, and if this were to be removed, there would no longer be the request of a variance. They would just go straight to the Board of Commissioners and request that those roads be turned over to the public.
What does the Board of Commissioners see as the benefit to doing this?
The benefit here would just be to rely on our subdivision regulations as opposed to our land use resolutions for these types of developments.
So the board would not have to, they'd be under no obligation to accept roads. Even if we've got rid of this, they'd still be under no obligation to accept roads as the county maintaining them.
Correct.
What about if it's a gated development?
Exactly. That's a great example. Any gated community, we will not accept over any type of, because it has to be a public road. So if a community is gated, those have to be maintained by that development. An example would be Big Canoe. It is gated, and we would never take over those roads unless they removed that gate and made it open to all public.
So to answer your initial question, would you have to have public roads? Certainly not. You can still build RPC development and have private roads if you so desire to keep it gated. And the Board of Commissioners would not have to accept anything that doesn't meet standards if they didn't want to.
Basically just skipping a step in the process.
I think basically cleaning up the language that we have from our land use regulations to our subdivision regs,
Yeah.
because the two really ought to flow better.
Yeah. Not
Instead of
get a
being two
variance for it.
separate articles, yes.
Yeah.
And having more variances come before us. Any other discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion?
We still do need to have a public hearing.
Oh,
My apologies. I might have.
certainly. Anyone to
misled
speak in
us.
favor
Skip
of
that
the presentation of the land use resolution update? If you would, please come forward. Your name and address is already on the piece of paper, so if you would just please state your name, Mr. King.
Yes, sir. Jim King, again. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I think Jameson stated very clearly what, I guess what the objective here is. I did want to add some, just add something to what he had said is back when that language is initially put in, it was for Big Canoe, because in Big Canoe, none of the roads meet county standards. And so that was one of the reasons. I actually talked to, this was like a year or two before I took office. And I talked to Tracy Phillips, who was actually a commissioner when this was put in, and asked Tracy about it. And that's what he told me, was that the reason it was put in place was because of Big Canoe, primarily because they didn't have, none of the roads would be public. And that guy was trying to make all the roads public, get the county to take them over. And so they zoned that RPCD and made all the roads private so that he could not dedicate them to the county. Same thing with Chestatee, which came along actually when I was a county commissioner. And the reason that was put into RPCD is because they have narrower roads. They don't have curb and gutter on a lot of them. So theirs didn't meet county standards as well. And at one time they were talking about gating that community. And so they didn't mind the streets being private. But that's, like Jameson said, once the subdivision regulations came on, kind of, I guess, I don't know, I won't say inadvertently, but anyway, they put in the subdivision regulations that, all the private roads had to meet public standards. So that kind of eliminated the need for it. The issue that we've had, and I've worked with a couple of different neighborhoods on this, is in Chester T being one of them. You know, after so many years and the roads start breaking down, then all the citizens come up and they want the county to take them over. And unfortunately, the roads weren't built to county standards and they haven't been maintained to county standards. So then it takes a lot of work to bring them up to county standards where they take them over. And it's a big mess. So, and you know, I can't blame the county for not taking them over if, you know, they're falling apart, but that's what you run into. Whereas if they're dedicated to the county to begin with, the county's maintaining them, they're built to county standards, and you don't run into the problem where the citizens come back. And what happens is citizens come back and say, hey, I'm paying just as much taxes as the guy, you know, my neighboring subdivision over there, and you're maintaining his roads. You know, in case of Chestatee, most of them were saying, I'm paying more taxes than that guy. Same in Big Canoe. So anyway, just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else to speak in favor of the land use resolution update? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in opposition to the land use resolution update? If you would, please come forward. Livingstone?
Yes, sir. Mr. Livingstone. My only concern would be that if you have a subdivision now that does have private roads and the homeowners association went bankrupt or disbanded, that the county might be stuck with some unexpected financial repairs to roads that, one, we didn't build, and two, we didn't maintain. So I think we probably ought to leave these private roads alone and let this verbiage stand so that we don't end up getting stuck with somebody else's mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition to the resolution update? Seeing none, at this time we'll close the board discussion. Any other discussion, gentlemen?
So would this apply to existing roads that weren't built to county standards? Would they be eligible to come into the county maintenance?
Yeah, if this language is removed, then yeah, absolutely. Anybody would come forth and apply and go before the Board of Commissioners, and they wouldn't have to go through the variance process like we did before and go straight to the Board of Commissioners and apply for that road to be taken over into the county maintenance program.
But they could still be denied.
They can still be denied, yes. Correct. All county roads as of currently have to be, or not county roads, any road built in this county has to be up to county standards, whether it's intended to be private or public. So that's something to consider.
Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend approval of the change.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, all in favor, let me know by raising your hand. Thank you. Motion is carried 3-0. Updates by planning and development.
Are we going to vote on the officers?
Red's number N. Updates by planning and development.
Really just have two updates. We are continuing working. I had a nice long conversation with our consultant on the 400 corridor overlay. Should have something to that really soon in the next week or two. Also, the planning and development was approved to hire a planner. So if there's any planners listening, please apply online in our HR department. We are looking forward to expanding our office. And that's it for the moment.
In January, we typically have our officers' elections. We have amended the agenda tonight to have our officers' elections. We'll begin with the chairman. Is there a nomination for chairman?
Nominate Jason Hamby.
Second.
All in favor of Jason Hamby serving as chairman? 2-0 with one abstention. Under vice chair, is there a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Neil.
And I'll second, even being the chairman, since there's only three of us. All in favor of Neil Hornsey being the vice chair?
Yes.
Motion is carried 2-0.
Do I not to get to, I don't get to vote now?
No, you don't. Under secretary, historically and typically, we normally have our planning director be our secretary, but is there a nomination for secretary? Normally it's Jameson.
I nominate Jameson.
Is there a second?
I second.
Moving a second, all in favor of Jameson being our secretary? Motion is carried 3-0. And with that, that brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.